2013's The Last of Us needed no sequel. Developed by Uncharted studio Naughty Dog, it's an excellent action-adventure survival horror game where its many monsters weren't its infected foes, but humanity itself. It's a really tough game to surpass due to its fantastic story and endearing characters. While 2020's The Last of Us Part 2 is an entertaining sequel, it doesn't feel as essential as the first game. Set 4 years after the events of The Last of Us, you find yourself in the role of Ellie, a young girl immune to the virus that plagues the game world, turning humans into mindless cannibalistic creatures. While the previous title had you playing as Joel, a grizzled old smuggler tasked with escorting her across the country, here you'll explore its detailed locales as Ellie. You don't need to play the first game, as Naughty Dog has ensured that you don't miss any of its crucial story elements that connect it to The Last of Us Part 2. And speaking of story, The Last of Us Part 2 is set largely in Seattle, with Ellie on the hunt for members of a group called WLF, which is short for Washington Liberation Front. Without spoiling much, The Last of Us Part 2 tries to tell a serious, deep story with some riveting moments. However, it falls short as there's a lot of time spent explaining specific characters and their motivations with flashbacks, versus actually showing off what's going on in the here and now. The approach of bookending sections of gameplay with these flashbacks tries to build up certain moments in the game's timeline, but you'll probably be too exhausted to care by the time you get to the narrative payoff. This is because the actual gameplay of The Last of Us Part 2 does a lot. You'll find yourself exploring an area, discovering what happened to those who used to be there through notes left behind, scavenging ammo and supplies, moving to the next location, and either gunning down its many zombie-like foes and trigger-happy humans, or simply moving past them quietly. Along the way, you'll progress through the story and indulge in some hectic moments, like escaping a lethal horde of monsters, surviving an ambush from well-equipped soldiers, and much more. The pacing of The Last of Us Part 2 rarely gives you a moment to take in the nuances of the story it wants to tell. There's no good reason for its drama to be curtailed by gameplay in such a way, and vice versa. It just doesn't feel as well paced as a game as its predecessor. The elaborate tale it wants to show off feels at odds with its combat and exploration, and that makes playing it feel more tiresome than it should be. Furthermore, the gameplay in The Last of Us Part 2 is deceptive. While the combat is a welcome step up over the first game, Naughty Dog has gone out of its way to make you feel guilty for every gun fired, every knife stab, and every Molotov cocktail thrown. Why? Well, because the developer went ahead and gave every single non-zombified enemy you kill a name. So when you kill one, his or her buddy will react by shouting their name in agony.
Alan? Come on, answer me.
Granted, other games have had enemy AI react to your actions in a similar manner, like the Halo titles, but it's never been this specific or in your face as it's presented here. This makes combat fun until you eventually kill a human enemy. The same applies to taking down its guard dogs. For one, they actually look adorable and their handlers shout their name too when you down them. If the intent from Naughty Dog was to make us feel like monsters, they have achieved their goal. And while each chapter of The Last of Us Part 2 has you feel like you're doing a lot, outside of its guilt-inducing gameplay, there's very little that feels particularly innovative. If you've played any of the recent Uncharted games, you know what to expect here in terms of gameplay, while the combat up close is similar to the first entry as is its stealth, crafting and upgrade systems. There's nothing particularly new or different this time around. Rather, it refines everything Naughty Dog has done in the past, so the controls feel a lot more responsive. However, it makes us wonder if there's anything left in terms of gameplay mechanics and systems that didn't make it to the final game, because this feels pretty odd for a title that's been in development over 7 years. Other aspects of The Last of Us Part 2 are less puzzling. While most of the action takes place in Seattle, there's an insane amount of variety. From flooded districts to quiet, desolate streets, every single area looks gorgeous. The attention to detail extends to the characters as well as the excellent voice work and subtle facial animations that rival the likes of Red Dead Redemption 2 and Resident Evil 3 Remake. On the whole, however, The Last of Us Part 2 is the best looking game on the PS4 Pro. Though some previews may claim that the console would get exceptionally noisy, this is not the case with our unit, and this is because we opened it up and cleaned up the dust inside before playing. It's something we recommend for you to do to prevent your PS4 Pro from sounding like a jet engine. With a story that took 25 hours or so to get through, The Last of Us Part 2 isn't a short game by any means, and its inconsistent pacing makes it feel like a chore to play through at times, even though its gameplay is polished but safe. If you're a hardcore fan of the first game, you probably already had this pre-ordered. If you just have a passing interest in The Last of Us, like many PS4 owners in this country, it's tough to justify the 3,399 rupee price tag for the standard edition with what it offers, making the wait for a price drop the better move. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned to Mr. Phone for all things in tech and gaming.